The film begins by showing with a street fight. There's this tough lady named Jessica, and she's a strong fighter. She's up against Gao, a bodyguard known for being super loyal, strong, and pretty ruthless when it comes to protecting people. The fight is intense. At first, they're evenly matched, but then Gao busts out some impressive kung fu moves and takes down Jessica with one powerful kick. But Gao's not happy about it because the boss he was supposed to protect suddenly disappeared. At that time, Gao used to work for Mr. Xui, but he's gone missing after some mercenaries attacked Gao's crew. Now, Gao's trying to find his boss, and he's using street fights to keep an eye on a guy named Bosong, who's suspected of betraying and kidnapping Mr. Xui. Gao's got some help from Mr. Xu's men, Ban Kai. They split up to investigate Bosong. Ban Kai is checking out the company's money stuff, seeing if Bosong did some shady money business. Meanwhile, Gao's following Bosong around, and he finds out that Bosong's hiding out in a place where they make some kind of magic powder through money laundering. When Gao tries to go back to Ban Kai, Bosong's gang corners him, and he's got to fight them off without getting hurt. At the same time, Ban Kai heads to one of Bosong's offices to check out their money records. But there's this sneaky employee who wants to tell Bosong about it. Lucky for Ban Kai, he grabs her phone right away. He tries to bribe her with some cash for Bosong's financial records, but after looking through them, they don't find anything fishy. So they figure they need to dig deeper, maybe even sneak into Bosong's main place. And to pull this off, Gao decides to recruit a crew and grab some weapons. One night, Gao chats up a construction worker named Zhang Qi. Zhang Qi's actually a skilled martial artist, known for beating up tons of people all by himself. Plus, he's also a bodyguard just like Gao. He works construction job on his days off to stay tough. Gao asks him to join their mission to find Mr. Xui, and Zhang Qi accepts without thinking twice. Next up, Gao recruits an explosives expert named Zhe Yao. Not only is he a whiz at making things blow up, but he's also one of the top 30 bodyguards, so his fighting abilities are unquestionable. Lastly, Gao's got a plan to bring in the sharpest shooter in all of Hong Kong, a guy named Shaitu. He's so good that he has won national shooting contests, but he's not much for getting into the fight directly and has a hard time keeping his emotions. Sometimes he acts out in public. So, Gao gathers his squad at a fancy villa to chat about how they're gonna sneak into Bosong's headquarters. But out of the blue, they get ambushed by a mystery lady. Turns out, it's Gao's old martial arts student Candy. She's young, but her kung fu skills are impressive. She was just testing Gao's abilities, and he's still got it. Candy then explains that she's been authorized by the boss of the bodyguard gang to help out Gao on this mission. She introduces herself to the crew, and they all head over to Ban Kai's place, collect the necessary weapons and equipment. Once they're locked and loaded, they stake out near Bosong's place. Inside, his men are producing some kind of magic powder, while Bosong chills by the pool. Not long after that, one of his henchmen shows up carrying a suitcase filled with this magical powder they're planning to sell. To test the substance, Bosong tells someone to give it a try. Shockingly, the lady who tries it dies immediately. Seeing this go down, Gao tells Shaitu to shoot Bosong with a tranquilizer dart, but one of Bosong's henchmen unexpectedly gets in Shaitu's way, and the shot misses. Thanks to this interruption, Gao and his crew have no choice but to fight and take down Bosong's men, even though they originally just wanted to kidnap Bosong. Surprisingly, despite their small group, Gao and his crew managed to beat up hundreds of opponents in no time. At the same time, mysterious mercenaries suddenly attack Bosong's henchmen at the back gate. Turns out they're the same people who kidnapped Mr. Xui at the start of the movie. Gao and his crew manage to corner Bosong. Gao quickly asks where Mr. Xui is being held, but Bosong has no clue. He even says he never meant to kidnap his own boss. Right when Gao is about to capture Bosong, a mysterious drone out of nowhere takes out Bosong and his men. Gao is left without a clear answer about Mr. Xu's kidnapping. Seems like those mysterious mercenaries were behind the attack, and to make things worse, they've planted a bomb in Bosong's place. Luckily, Gao and his crew escape the explosion. The next day, Gao sends Zhang Qi, Shai Tu, and Zhe Yao to check out a street fighting arena, thinking the owner might have some information in the criminal world. But when they get there, Jessica ambushes them. They start a fight, and suddenly, the arena owner steps in to break it up. Meanwhile, Gao and Candy go to see Ban Kai to report what went down at Basong's place. Hearing their story, Ban Kai is shocked. If Basong didn't take Mr. Xui, then there's someone else trying to mess up his business. Plus, Mr. Xu's pharmaceutical company just launched a new drug. Ban Kai asks Gao to find his boss before someone else takes over the company. Later on, Ban Kai and the two of them joined up with the crew at the street fighting arena. Over there, Zhang Qi asked for details about Mr. Xu's kidnapping, but the arena owner, Jian, said no straight up. She explained that the place was just for fights. However, when Ban Kai showed up, Jian changed her mind real quick, especially since Ban Kai was a VIP member there. Still, the information wouldn't come for free. They had to earn it by fighting. Gao and his crew had to take on Jian's gang in a 5-on-5 showdown. Jian led her team into the battle. Gao wasn't worried because he'd already beaten her once before. Without wasting time, the fight began, and it got intense. At first, things were pretty tough, but as time went on, Jessica and her team started to struggle. In the end, Gao's squad easily came out on top, and even Gao and Candy managed to beat Jessica with their powerful martial arts moves. After the fight, Jian promised to provide the information requested by Gao and his crew. She then went to see her boss, Cheng, who was the most powerful mafia figure in the area. Jian showed off Gao and his crew impressive kung fu skills. She thought they had real potential and wanted to recruit them as bodyguards for her boss. Meanwhile, Ban Kai mentioned that he was gonna announce the launch of a new drug soon to bait the kidnapper of his boss out of hiding. Gao and his crew decided to tail Jian, because she hadn't provided any information about Mr. Xu yet. At the same time, Cheng asked Jian to dig into Gao and his crew background. That night, Jian met up with the commander of the mercenaries who kidnapped Mr. Xu, a guy named Kunka. These mercenaries were highly trained individuals in sneaky investigations and brutal attacks, so they wouldn't be easy to deal with. But Jian didn't know they were the ones who kidnapped Mr. Xu. She actually wanted to hire them to investigate Gao and crew. However, Konka turned her down because he just wanted to chill at his headquarters. The next day, Gao and Candy thought it was a good idea to go back to Basong's headquarters after they overheard Jian and Kunka talking. But when they got there, they bumped into Ban Kai. He told them that the government had taken over Basong's place, so they couldn't go in. And to make things worse, there weren't any clues there either. Later on, Ban Kai invited them to the launch of the new drug, which was gonna be on live TV. He was also trying to cover up Mr. Xu's kidnapping to keep things from getting worse. As things got trickier, Gao and his crew decided they needed information by force. Gao and Candy planned to sneak into Jian's house, while Zhang Qi and the others would keep watch outside. But what they didn't know was that Kunka and his men were ready to take them down too. Turns out, Jian had set a trap for them. Both of them ended up getting drugged and passed out right away. Meanwhile, Kunka's men launched a full-on attack, and Zhang Qi and his team had to bail out of their guard duty. A little while later, Gao woke up all tied up. Jian thought she could take him down easily, but despite his friendly look, Gao's spirit remained ruthless. He managed to free himself and took on dozens of Jian's henchmen with just his fists. Using his kung fu skills, Gao wiped the floor with all of them, leaving no one standing. And just like always, he was completely unharmed. After beating up Jian and her gang, the tables had turned, and now Jian was the one held captive. Gao wasted no time and asked her about Mr. Xui. Jian assured him that Mr. Xu was safe, but she didn't know where he was exactly because her boss kept it from her. Gao and Candy got in touch with Zhang Qi, who luckily survived. He told them the others were safe too, but that they needed to regroup in the forest because Kunka's crew might be guarding their place. So, they all gathered to figure out their next move. But not long after, news started spreading that Gao and his crew had taken down Jian and her gang, even though they hadn't hurt Jian at all. Now, they were wanted by the police. They let Ban Kai know what was going on and assured him that they were okay. After that, Gao got a call from someone who represented Jian's boss, and they asked him and his friends to come to their headquarters. They decided to go check it out. At the headquarters, Cheng told them that the guys who got taken down were Kunka's henchmen. He'd also mentioned that Kunka's gang still had a boss who went by the name Li Ji, but they didn't know much about him except that he had a bunch of mercenaries under him all over Asia. Cheng then offered Gao and his crew a deal to help take out Kunka's gang, including their boss, and in return, he'd reveal the location of Mr. Xui. But if Gao said no, Cheng wouldn't hesitate to get rid of them. Gao agreed without hesitation. Cheng provided them up with weapons and a helicopter, and he let them know where Mr. Xui was, in the middle of a forest, holed up in an empty building that Kunka and his men were using as a hideout. Without wasting time, Gao and his crew got moving. First, Shai Tu used a drone to keep an eye from above. He saw Kunka making Mr. Xu sign some company papers. If Mr. Xu went along with it, the new drug would belong to Lei Ji. Outside the building, Shai Tu gave the signal for an attack when their enemies were caught off guard. He tossed a grenade as a signal, and Gao and the gang launched an assault from the helicopter. But things took a bad turn when their helicopter got hit by a rocket, making Gao and his crew bail out early. They scattered all over the place, each doing their thing. Meanwhile, Kunka was super mad that they were suddenly under attack. He got his men ready to take out Gao and his crew. Unfortunately, Shai Tu got shot in the leg, even though he managed to take down a bunch of enemies all at once. At the same time, Zhe Yao cleared out Kunka's men in the control room and let them know where Mr. Xui was. Thanks to Zhe Yao, Candy finally found Mr. Xui, and Zhe Yao also helped Zhang Qi hide from Kunka's men. On the flip side, Kunka started suspecting that Gao and his crew had taken over the control room, so he told his henchmen to secure it. But Zhe Yao decided to blow up the room since he'd already given away Mr. Xu's location. At the same time, Gao and Candy barged into the place where Mr. Xui was being held. They didn't waste a second and started shooting down all the guards there. Gao quickly rescued Mr. Xui and told everyone to meet up outside. But when they got there, only Zhang Qi had made it. That's because Shai Tu and Zhe Yao were caught up in their own fights. Just as Gao and his crew were about to split, Kunka and his men surrounded them. They grabbed all their weapons right away. Then Lei Ji showed up, and it turned out that Lei Ji was actually Ban Kai. He was the mastermind behind Mr. Xu's kidnapping, and he wanted to take over Mr. Xu's company to get revenge for his son's death, which Mr. Xui was responsible for, or so he believed. But Mr. Xui insisted he had nothing to do with Lei Ji's son's death. Amidst the intense situation, Shai Tu showed up and fired his weapon to surprise their enemies, giving Gao and the other a chance to escape. Meanwhile, Zhe Yao was still locked in a tough battle with Kunka's henchmen. Running low on ammo, Zhe Yao played dead to lure one of Kunka's men closer. Just as expected, the henchman came closer to finish him off, but Zhe Yao pulled a quick move and took him down. But the fight didn't end there. They got into a brawl, and Zhe Yao beat up Kunka's henchman once again. Then he took out an earring and used it to finish the job, stabbing the henchman to death. On the other hand, Gao and his crew were having a hard time dealing with their foes. Meanwhile, Candy took Mr. Xui to a safe spot, but Lei Ji managed to track them down. Candy got trapped, and she acted like she was giving up Mr. Xui, but she was trying to trick Lei Ji. Then, Candy attacked Lei Ji with her kung fu moves. But Lei Ji was also a skilled martial artist himself. He slammed Candy to the ground repeatedly until she passed out instantly. Out of nowhere, Gao showed up and landed a powerful kick on Lei Ji, causing him some serious pain. He woke up Candy and told her to take Mr. Xui and get out of there. Gao decided to face off with Lei Ji himself. Their kung fu skills were evenly matched, and the fight was intense. But Lei Ji managed to slip away to another room, where Kunka and his men had already beaten Gao's crew. Seeing this, Gao got furious and showed no mercy. Sadly, Zhe Yao sacrificed himself to bring Lei Ji down. On the other hand, Kunkka tried to make a run for it because his men was almost wiped out, but Gao wasn't gonna let him off the hook. He was gonna chase Kunkka wherever he went. Meanwhile, Zhang Qi and Shai Tu were trying to get out of the building to avoid ending up like Xiao, but they got attacked by Kunkka. Since Shai Tu was badly hurt, Zhang Qi had to face Kunkka alone. Unfortunately, he didn't make it and was killed after tossing a grenade at Kunkka. While Shai Tu was deeply saddened by the loss, he didn't let it hold him back. He got right back on his feet to help Gao. Thanks to his help, Kunkka couldn't escape the area around the building. However, Kunkka managed to throw a grenade at Shai Tu's car, and the explosion tragically took Shai Tu's life. Witnessing yet another teammate's death, Gao couldn't contain his anger. He launched a fierce attack on Kunkka and then unleashed a brutal assault of 1,000 punches, shattering Kunkka's bones and causing a gruesome demise. After dealing with Kunkka, Gao's thoughts turned to his fallen friends. He immediately set out to find Candy and Mr. Xui. But Lei Ji, who was still breathing, surprised him from behind. Lei Ji tried to kill Gao with a grenade, but Gao's lightning-fast reflexes turned the tables, leading to Lei Ji's own demise by his own weapon. At the same time, Candy and Mr. Xu faced off against Kunkka's backup. Unfortunately, they couldn't protect Mr. Xui, and he lost his life. Candy, feeling devastated, swiftly dealt with all of Kunkka's reinforcements, gunning them down. Later that night, Gao and Candy met up in front of the building. Candy was filled with regret for not being able to save Mr. Xui, even though it was their main job as bodyguards. When Gao heard this, he made a big decision to retire. In the end, Gao switched careers and became a gambler. But whenever he lost, his ruthless side would come out, and he'd end up fighting with his opponent. And that's how the movie ended. The moral lesson from the story is, never bring a grenade to a kung fu fight, or you might end up blowing your own plans to bits.